Hello and welcome to episode 6 to the Startup Diaries. On today's episode, we're interviewing Joey, one of the founders of Viddyoze, where he'll be covering story and journey that he's been on in building Viddyoze, how he was actually very anti-investment with regards to the business and bringing external organization right through to the fact that actually now they're on the verge of sealing some significant investment for de-risking the business and also international growth. He also talks about finding non-execs and how they find the right people for your business, and talks about his sales strategy using an affiliate program which actually caused them to have significant increases in sales throughout the year, with good build up and using their network, and how the power of their network really helped them capitalize on that. They also talk through recruitment, letting people go, and actually giving other people the reins as the business grew, finding the right leadership team underneath them. Hopefully you find it interesting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another Startup Series podcast run by Bern Sheehan. Today, joined by one of the founders of Viddyoze, Joey. Welcome, Joey, and thanks for joining us on the next version of this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
I appreciate it. Shall we just dive in? Do you want to tell us a little bit about Viddyoze and what inspired you to start the business?
Sure, yeah. So basically, Viddyoze is a web-based 3D animation platform. It allows you to create short animated assets for your video content. So things like intros, outros, lower thirds. So it's like a banner that comes out like the bottom of your video, that kind of thing. And it's all done by a kind of an animation engine that we've built from scratch. And essentially, the reason we built it was because I'm a videographer. Well, I used to be a videographer. That's how I started out my entrepreneurial career. And the one thing that I could never really do is create animation. I was always good with the editing stuff, but I wasn't very good at actually making animation. So that's how the idea kind of came about. Was, I have a background in kind of teaching people about video online. That's actually how I started my journey, was showing small businesses how to create content online. How do you make really cool, high converting video content for your online business? And that was kind of the whole idea of me starting my business, was just like showing people how to use video. And then as my career kind of progressed with that, I kind of got sick of teaching because it's not really my foray. Like it's just something that I wanted to do back then because I needed to make money. But then, I wanted to get into software, and basically I just thought, like, if I could find a way to kind of do this in an automated way, it would be pretty cool, like as an idea, because there wasn't really anything else out there at the time that could do that. And I did create other software products as well in the video world. Like I tried a few things and they kind of flopped. But this particular idea was one that was very specifically unique in that no one had done it, and it was quite hard to find someone that could help me build it. And it was a bit of a challenge actually getting to a point where we could actually build an MVP. And my business partners, David and Jamie, they were probably the third or fourth group of people that I actually took the idea to, and they were pretty confident that they could build an MVP. So essentially, they took the idea. A couple of weeks later, we had a very basic MVP where we could essentially log into a system online. I could choose a template of an animation that I liked, upload my logo, and then the engine would basically animate my logo all automatically in the cloud. And it took like 2-3 minutes to do it. So pretty cool. Like normally in a world without software like that, it would take days to create an animation like that. If you're a professional, it would probably take you at least a day in itself. So it's pretty cool that we were able to automate that process all within in the space of a couple of minutes, essentially. So that's what we do, and that's how the idea came about.
That's great. That's great. Well, look, obviously, previous podcasters we've had on this have been leaders and CEOs of businesses that have actually taken quite early VC backing into the business to help them grow. I've heard, obviously, we've spoken about the kind of growth, revenue, and heights that you've hit, but it's been purely organic so far. Could you tell us a little bit about how you've done that in comparison to other people who've been on this podcast?
Yeah, like we look, in the early days, we were really opposed to investment. I'll admit, like I was pretty much just like anti-investment for a very long time. And the reason was like a little bit immature at the time, but also kind of like it made sense for us. Like I didn't really want to work for anyone. I didn't really want to be in a business where we've got loads of other people that we got to answer to and that kind of thing. Especially at the size we were, it's like it's a fresh business, it's new, it's small, so we just want to kind of run with it and see what we can do. I've always been of the mind that we can grow the business ourselves, and that's kind of how it started out. And I've always kind of built businesses from scratch. Like even my initial business, I've done it from scratch. I built it to like $1 million business, and it's not a massive business being $1 million business, but it was just me. Like it was like a one-man show, and I just wanted to have that kind of, I don't know, the autonomy, I suppose, with my business partners to go and just kind of do what we want. And it was a lifestyle business. Like we made a tremendous amount of money in the first few years, and we lived a very, very cool lifestyle to do that. Now, once you get investment, it's not that simple. You can't just go to Vegas and blow 100K because you just can't do that. But we had the opportunity and the fortunate opportunity to do shit like that when we were a bit younger, and it was cool, man. Like it was a time in my life where that was okay. I mean, I'm 32 now, so I'd like to think I'm not really old. I hope I'm not. But I think we've got to a stage of growth. The business is getting to a very mature stage where it's time to really scale it to the $1 billion mark. So I'll take a step back and explain how we actually did that, like from a strategic point. So what we did was we basically built an affiliate program. So that's what my background is. Even when I was selling courses, I never used paid traffic. I never went out and tried to acquire customers with my own money. All I did was basically built a network of other businesses who would be interested in selling my stuff. So as an example, my first ever course was teaching people how to make videos for their business. So what I did was I went out and looked for loads of different business opportunity entrepreneurs online who had audiences, much like in today's day, we call it influencers, but it's the same thing basically. Like I would look for people who have got audiences that would engage with my type of content. So the course was about teaching video. I went and reached out to all the top YouTubers who were teaching people about video and said, look, if you show my course and you sell my course to your audience, I'll give you a 50% cut on any sales that you make. Simple as that. It's a really simple affiliate relationship. They drive traffic. I don't spend a penny up front and they make money. And that literally is what we did for the first 3 years of our business at Viddyoze. I had built up a very substantial network of affiliate partners by 2015, but from my own stuff that I was already doing. But then David and Jamie had a really good network as well. So when we combined it, we had thousands of affiliates who we've built up over the years and basically tapped into that resource when we launched Viddyoze. So in September 2015, when we launched it for the first time, we were able to bring on about 300 or 400 people who have got really tight, targeted lists of people who are going to be very interested in what we've got. So what happened was we basically built the sales funnel. So we had all the sales material, like the sales pages, put the sales videos together, all of that stuff. So all the website and everything's there. Buy buttons are on there and everything. We've told the affiliates, look, we're going to launch it on the 29th of September. As soon as it hits 11 o'clock Eastern time, send the traffic basically. So what we do is we created a 4-day window in which we were going to sell the product. We don't just sell it evergreen. We said to the affiliates, look, we're only going to sell it for 4 days, from the 29th up until the 30, 31, 1, 2, up until the 2nd of October. And we're going to close it after that. So affiliates then basically hammer the sales page for 4 days because there's like a lot of scarcity in that window. It's like Amazon's Black Friday sale. Like they basically get everyone to rush the sales page for 7 days. And the interesting thing is you make most of your sales in day one, and then most of your sales on the last day. And then in the middle is a little bit of a lull period. And we kind of basically built our entire promotional strategy around that idea of selling in really small pockets. And in that small 4-day pocket, we did $500,000 in revenue, and we built up $1.2 million in ARR literally in 4 days of selling. So that's all done through strategic partnerships that we have with our affiliates, having a really good sales funnel and really good pricing. There's a lot of thought that goes into creating that campaign. It takes 3 to 6 months for us to build that campaign, but when we set it for that window, it basically pays off. So we weren't getting paid for that initial 6-month period. We were just just doing our thing. We invested a lot of money into building the platform, and everything we put into the platform is our own money, I guess. But to be fair, that initial platform, the first MVP, probably cost us about $30,000. Now, in reality, that's not a lot of money. for a business, that's not a lot of money. And what that's paid us back over the years is, you know, it's a massive amount of money that we've been paid back on that initial investment. So that's what we did. And, you know, if there's SaaS businesses out there, I encourage people to do that. I encourage people to go that route because, look, you've got no investors. We basically put up a pool of $500,000 of essentially capital we can now put back into the platform. So we didn't just get 500K and then go and piss it away. Like, we basically put all the money back into the platform. We rebuilt it. We got more templates. We hired staff, and then we basically built the team out. And then about 7 or 8 months later, we did the exact same thing again. We did another 4-day launch, and this time we did 650K in that 4-day window. Now, what happens is in between that time, we've already built up 1.2 million in recurring over the year, so we're getting paid every month anyway. So what we're doing in the space between the two events is we're just carrying ourselves forward with the recurring, making sure our churn's low, making sure we're, you know, doing our bit to make sure we keep ticking along. And then we'll do small little promotions in between as well, where we'll sell other people's stuff, and, you know, like, we'll do affiliate promotions for other people. So, for example, you know, we've got a friend who's got a really cool platform called Convertory, Andrew Fletcher, great platform, who you guys should interview, by the way, is really good. Bootstrap business again. And, you know, they're doing about 1.5 million a year right now, I think. And, you know, what we do is we say to Andy, look, like, we can sell your product. So we'll send you the traffic, give us 50%, and you guys keep 50%. It's the same thing. We're just doing it the other way around, basically. So we had a list at that time of about 10 to 15,000 customers. We send traffic to Andy, and over the year, I think we sold about $500,000 worth of product for him. So that's $500,000 that we've just generated from our list. That isn't even anything to do with our product. So that's how we basically built capital in those early days. Is we just sell other people's shit in a good way. Of course, we don't just sell anything. We find good stuff to sell, create really good strategic partnerships, and then market to those people, and we build the capital. Now, we wouldn't do that now because it's like, you know, it is a little bit cheap. You know, it's not the best thing to do ever. But look, like, when you're like an early startup with no investment, you need capital to grow quickly. Then that's what you got to do. So we did that for a number of years. We did that, and, you know, we built up. I think in the first 2 to 3 years, we must have hit about $10 to $15 million in sales through following that format and just using affiliate partners, basically, and doing affiliate promotions. We've done millions doing that, and that's basically how we did it. Hopefully that answers the question in a long-winded way.
That's great. I mean, you made it sound easy as well. Just, you know, just turning around in 4 days, 500,000, 1.2 in recurring. But I'm sure it's obviously a lot more than that. It's time that you spent investing into it. But it's a very different way, I guess, to what have been discussed, not just with people on this podcast, but with SaaS businesses that I work with, but with just as clients in general, really. So
yeah, look, like, what happens is that people will go and get investment, right? And what they do is they have to build a free trial model. Yeah, because I'm not trying to be flippant on people's experience, but look, like, most people that go and get investment are generally going to be technical founders, or they're just going to be people with an idea, and that's fine, right? Like, but what ends up happening is they don't have any marketing prowess. So what they do is they look at what everyone else is doing, the big massive companies like your Dropbox, like, you know, all like your Buffers and things like that, who have your free trial model. But the thing is, the reason these guys can nail free trials is because they have literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of capital to play with. So when you get investment, that's what people do. They're just like, yeah, like, let's just do a free trial. And as we're doing the free trial, we'll build the product out, and eventually we will make money because we'll convert them later on. Look, that's cool. But what we do is say, right, there is no free trial. What we're going to do is sell our product for $67 for a one-time fee of $67. That's what we do initially. So when somebody hits our funnel, we're instantly paid $67, right? So we made our money. Then we push them into a recurring product of $37 a month. And people will hear that and think, what the fuck? Why would anybody do that? Well, I can tell you right now, 100,000 people have done that with us. So people will do it if you market correctly. So what we're doing there is it's like a reverse trial, basically. Like, we're not giving the trial. We're just saying, look, buy the product for $67 and we'll give you a taste of what the product is, because the product's that good that you should pay $67 to see it. So that's what they're doing. They're paying $67 and they get 200 templates to play with. That's a lot. That, like, so it's to be honest, the majority of people stick with that, and that's fine. But 20% of people, probably about 22% of people, will take the subscription at $37 a month. And that's where our MRR is growing. And the conversions at 22%, it's pretty good. Like, I think on affiliate traffic, we're doing 20 to 25%. On paid traffic, we're probably doing about 11 to 12%. But again, 100 people, we're getting 10 subscriptions out of every 100 people. That's fine. We're growing pretty much on the initial sales. So what that gives us is that when we're doing our paid acquisition and when we're paying for customers, so when we're doing our Facebook advertising, we're not worried about spending $110 to get a $67 customer. It doesn't matter, because we could spend $150 actually to get a customer, but because we're converting at 20%, 15% on the recurring, we're going to make that money back. So because we're getting that initial money back, it's fine. So, and this is before we've got any investment. So we are throwing a lot of cash at advertising because we're making the money back right away anyway. If we had a free trial and we had no investment capital, we'd be fucked, basically. So how are we going to make any money? And that's why people go and get investment, because they think that the free trial model is the way to go. But I'm not saying it's not the way to go. I'm just saying there are other ways to do it if you don't want to initially get investment, and you can make a lot of money doing it that way. And we are in a position now where we're going to get investment, but we're not going to change the model. Like, we've got investors knocking on our door saying, you guys are doing it a really cool way, and you're making money right now. You're profitable right now. Like, we make profit every year. We've never gone backwards. So it's year-on-year growth. This is our biggest year. Obviously, COVID's had a massive factor to that. But look, from an investor's perspective, it's just like, this is great. Like, what investable business? And that's pretty much where we're at right now. That's how we've done it.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, when it comes to what investors look for, the ones that I speak with, you're a SaaS business with a reoccurring model, revenue model, and you're a highly profitable business. So I mean, that will be, I can imagine they are very interested in speaking with you at the moment. So again, what's coming to that, the fact that you're obviously notably now going out to look for an outside investment after the organic growth, what's made you come to the decision to seek that investment at this point exactly?
Yeah, we've had people knocking on the door for about a year and a half now, maybe probably close to 2 years, and we put it off for a long time. And then, we've had, to be honest, like we got approached by one of the big four. I won't say who, but we got approached by one of the big four, and they said, you guys basically are in a prime position right now to make a shitload of cash. And like, look, like, there is a benefit to the business. Obviously, we're going to have so much capital being put into the business where the advertising spend where we are with our advertising right now, I think we're spending, I don't know, probably 12 to 13, maybe $15,000 a day, like, on advertising, sometimes more. I mean, we've gotten to stages where we're spending 50 to 60K a day. I mean, during April and May and June, I think we were getting close to $100,000 a day in advertising spend, just because of how good the advertising landscape was because of COVID. But, if we could get millions of dollars that we can just like literally distribute through advertising, our growth would just literally spike. Like, we would grow so fast. We don't do that right now because it's our money. Like, this is literally me, David, and Jamie's money. This is our bread and butter. Like, so it's a risk. There is a massive risk for us to just go and drop millions of pounds on advertising, and if it doesn't work. So it's working right now, and it's fine, but it doesn't mean that we just want to go and throw investor money away. It's not that. Like, we wouldn't just go and spend it all. But what it is that it gives us a little bit of play, gives us room to do more and do it faster, make mistakes faster, and hopefully win faster. There's the developmental side of it, where we've got products and services that we want to kind of build on top of videos. But to do that, we need to bring in, 10 to 15 developers. We want to get more space. We want to get more machines. All of these things will allow us to just accelerate faster. So it's not a case of like we need the cash. It really is just a case of if we had the cash, we could move 5 times faster. And that's what it's about, really. Like we're trying to build the company to $1 billion as fast as we can. And I don't want to do this when I'm 40. So like now's the time to do it. Basically, like I've been in this business for 5 years. I was doing my own thing 3 years before that, so it's coming close to 10 years of doing my own thing. And I want to move on. Like I don't want to be doing videos for the next 15 years. Like I want to, have my time here, build it into something amazing, and then call it a day one day, hopefully. The other thing as well is with investment as well is like there's the element of de-risk. So as a founder, you put in a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to building your business, and a lot of private equity will actually give you the benefit of de-risking some of the investments. So let's say they put in 10 million quid into your business, you can say, okay, well, can we do a 30% de-risk? So that means you could take 3 million quid out for yourself personally, just to kind of cover yourself basically. So if shit does go wrong, then you've still got 3 million quid there and you're fine. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a money person. Like I'm motivated by money. I'm ambitious. So that part of it does obviously incentivize me to want to go down an investment route, because it's like I've worked really hard. My partners have worked really hard, and we should have a payout now, and we should enjoy kind of all the work that we've put in. But equally, it's going to give us a bit of, well, a lot of security in that now when we want to push forward with the business, we can take much greater risk and be a lot less stressed, like when we're doing it. And that's a really big psychological thing. It's like when you go to work on a Monday and it's like, we're fine, my family's fine, I'm fine. All I want to do is literally kill it in my business and grow this thing as fast as I can. And you don't have to worry about anything, and that's why investors do that, because they want you to feel okay. Like they want you to be optimal mentally so that you can really perform in the business. And that's a big part of why we want to do it. Like, because to say that the last 5 years have been stressful is probably the biggest understatement ever. Like, we've made a lot of money, yes, but the amount of stress that comes along with all of the work we've put in has been difficult, man. Like, I'm in therapy. David goes to therapy. And, I'm not ashamed to say, like, I've got a lot of issues with anxiety, stress. Like, it's hard. Being an entrepreneur is not as glamorous as they make out sometimes. But that's just it. This is the path I've chosen. So,
No, I'm starting to get the feel from interviewing people that it isn't as all glamorous as it's often. People on certain social media threads will try to make you think that it's just easy and it's all a fashionable lifestyle.
Yeah. It's the whole, like, I don't know, like the Gary Vaynerchuk thing, like the hustle and grind and all of that. It's like, you do have to work really hard, but it's like it's not fun to put yourself through all of that. Like it isn't. But look, I wouldn't take back anything. Like it's all been a great character building thing for me. Like, and this will be what I do for the rest of my life. So is what it is.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Obviously, you come into the table and starting to look at that funding round. How have you approached it? And are there any kind of learning curve sort of stories that you can tell people to kind of watch out for?
Oh man, yeah. There's a lot of fluff. Like a lot of people will tell you things that they know you want to hear. So you do have to be very mindful of what you do. Like honestly, if I can be completely honest about it, I would highly recommend getting somebody that's done it before, and bring them in as a non-executive director in your business, like an NED. So we brought in somebody called Ian Wright. It's really well known up in the north. He's sold, I believe, 2 or 3 businesses before. He's done investments. He's been acquired, and he's not very much older than us actually. So he can relate with us. He fits in with our vibe, and he's done what we're trying to do. Now, he hasn't done it on the scale that we want to do it, and that's fine. Like, but the benefit we've got is that he knows exactly what's going to happen, what to avoid, what pitfalls are going to be on the way. And that's been a big, massive thing for us. Like he's kind of been there to kind of guide us through the process. And obviously, it's got to be somebody that you really trust and that you can bring into your business. But there's a lot of ways that you can find people like that. I mean, Ian himself, he owns like a non-executive database. So that's actually one of the businesses he sold was can't remember what it's called. I think it's virtual non-execs is his business, and basically he actually sources non-executive directors and places them into businesses. So if you need somebody who's in sales, if you need somebody who can advise you on technology, law, like finance, whatever, basically he will place those people. So when we found Ian, it was like, well, this is the guy. This is what he does. Like he places people that know how to do specialist roles in businesses. So he was the perfect person for us to bring in. And Ian's got very good ties with Deloitte, KPMG, and he basically knew how to essentially get those guys interested. Now we didn't actually go out to these people; they kind of came to us, and that was all based on the fact that we basically built quite a lot of hype around the brand and PR and that kind of stuff. And there's a process. Like PR is a big thing to kind of get your brand exposed and getting it out there and getting it into the local markets as well. Because we're essentially a Manchester company, so we do a lot of PR based around Manchester, the Northwest, and that kind of thing. And that's how we got picked up. We've had a couple of investment houses around Manchester, some of the big ones that have come along and said, what are you guys doing? Do you want to chat? And that's basically how it happened. It's been it's been a bit it's been quite an organic process, if I'm being honest. Like we've been fortunate enough to not have to kind of do like a lot of canvassing to get the attention. But I think the big primary levers to make that happen is having an NED who's done it before, doing a lot of good PR about your company and letting people know that you're actually open to the idea, and then just having as many conversations as you can. Like we've had meetings with investors who just come in and said, yeah, we can do, we'll do 5 to 10 million or 15 to 20 million and that'll be the deal. And it's like, that's not going to be the deal. Like, you don't even know what a company's valued at yet. So like, if you don't know that, you will trip up because the numbers sound great. Like when somebody can tell you like, we'll stick 20 million in your account, it's like, yeah, let's go for it. But it's, you have to speak to as many different people as you can, as many different investors as you can. Every investor is going to tell you that they're a backseat investor, i.e., they'll put money in and then they're just not going to, they won't get in your way and all of that. And, they're all going to say that. Is it true or not? I don't really know because we haven't had it yet. But one thing I can say is that they are all going to say the same thing. So you just got to be wise to that. And look, the conversations we had have been great, man. Like we've met some really cool investors. We've got on with them really well. There's a bunch of people that I would really love to work with. And I think they gel with us really well. But you've got to find people that you can actually build rapport with. So this is the other thing. Like we've had some investors come in who, look, they technically sound great. They've got connections. They seem to know exactly what they would need to do to grow the business, but there would be a disconnect between how we'd work together just based on personality clash. And like, that's one of the biggest things that we've been advised to look out for, because look, you've got to work with these people for a long time. Could be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, could be even longer than that. So you want to make sure you can go and have a beer with these people basically and have some food with them or go out and chill with them for a little bit. I think that's probably the biggest thing is make sure you get on with them. Because if you don't, when you have those difficult conversations, when you're not hitting your numbers and you've missed a target, it's going to be a shit conversation and no one's going to be happy. And I think that's when people, like founders especially, begin to build resentment over the idea of the fact that they've brought investors in. And as soon as you start getting that feeling where it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, it's too late. Like you can't undo the investment. It's like when it's there, it's there. So it's a life-changing thing, and it's obviously a risk, and that's why de-risk is there, because if it does go shit, then you need to have that. And again, I encourage that. Like, don't be afraid to say what you want. Like, if an investor's coming in and they say they want to take 30% of your business, hey, cool. Like, how much are you going to give me to take that? because you've done this. Like, you've built the business, you've built the idea, so you should technically be rewarded for what you've done so far. And I think a lot of people get a little bit worried about asking. Most investors, I mean, pretty much everyone we've spoken to has been open to that idea. They're not your enemy. They want to look after you and make sure you can do it. But if you don't ask, you don't get, So just be wise to that, and just say what you want. You don't have to beat around the bush with these people, really. The more honest you are, the better it's actually going to be, because you'll actually find someone that's aligned with you correctly. If you don't say really what you want, and then 2 years later, it's like, oh, for God's sakes, like, I wish I gave away 20 instead of 30. Like, it's too late, isn't it? So hopefully that there's something there. Like, we're still going through the process, so I'm still learning a lot of this stuff. And a lot of the technical stuff especially is quite complicated. That's where David's probably a little bit more savvy than me, because he's actually an accountant. So, I guess that's another thing, is like, if you don't have the financial experience, which I don't, make sure somebody in your business does, that can actually help you understand how it's all going to work. That's probably pretty important.
That's great. I love that. I love the passion that came through there. It's obviously quite exciting. It stirs a bit of excitement in you as well at the same time as you're talking about it. I love that. It's great. One of the things that we've obviously spoken about on our previous conversations is around that growth and hopefully making the right hires and building those cohesive teams. We've spoke previously, you'd also had some challenges at one point or another in that growth and the hiring of the right people. I know it's off topic of the VC side of things, but on the growth front, can you tell us a bit about what you've learned when it's come to growing the business by headcount and getting the right people into the business as well?
Yes, it's been pretty up and down for us. Like, when we first started, it was quite easy, because when you're a small business, you basically hire for like your more monotonous roles. It's things like administration and basic stuff, and then it starts to kind of level up. So you want to bring in support staff. But again, the support staff is easy. Like, you just need to find someone that can fix the problems for a customer and make sure they've got good rapport. And, as your business starts to mature, you start to mature, and it means you need to start pulling back a little bit. A lot, really. I mean, we're at a stage now where myself, David, and Jamie, we're essentially trying to replace what we do, like, entirely. So we're trying to create enough space for ourselves to go and innovate and move the business forward. And to do that, you need to start bringing in, your leadership potential type people, or management potential. And we went through a phase where, we brought in lots of really good mid-level people. We've got great mid-level people in the business now. We've had people that have been with us from the start, who have really bedded into the company, and they know it better than everybody else. And, because they know it so well, it's like they've really built their career inside our company, and they just learn so much because they're there watching a company grow, and they're just kind of growing with it. And that's great. But we're at a stage now where we can't necessarily do that now, because we've grown so much. So now it's like we need to get people that can come in and actually make it their own, and kind of take all the pieces of the puzzle and put it together. So, for example, I mean, let me go back actually. So the first big hires we made were a sales director, an operations director, and a marketing director. So those are the three areas that we felt we needed to kind of cover off, which essentially covers like me, David, and Jamie. Basically, like they would, kind of build it. They would kind of build into our role. The issue we had was we hired from big corporate businesses. IBM was one of them. I can't remember the other ones now, but there was IBM. I think We Buy Any Car was another one where one of them came from, and that's a UK company for any US people watching. But these guys I think they were good in a big company, but when we brought them into the smaller company, they just completely failed. And it's not entirely their fault. It's also the fault of us, because we didn't have any procedures, processes. It was a blank canvas, basically. Like when we brought in our sales director, we didn't have a sales operation. It was literally him. So it was like, look, your job is to basically build the sales part of the business from scratch. And it sounds really exciting for a sales director. It's like, oh, wow, like, I can basically do what I want. I can bring in people, build all these cool processes and stuff. And that's all fine. But the problem is like, it's not easy. It really isn't easy. And And I think like we completely we kind of really underestimated how much work that was going to be to kind of build departments with people. Um, so it didn't work out in the end. And, we had the sales guy for 6 months, didn't make a single sale. We had an operations director come in, and because he was more comfortable with already organized businesses, he couldn't organize our business. So he actually ended up just basically sitting in support every day and answering support tickets, but he's on £70,000 a year. So it's like, what are we paying you for, basically? And we made that mistake with three senior hires and basically scrapped them. And then we had to basically take a step back and say, right, how do we do this kind of thing? Like, how do we bring in the right people? And essentially what happened was we started developing the roles ourselves a little bit first. So I started building up my own kind of role a little bit into a bit of a systemized format. So it's like, right, what is it I do day to day? Like, what are the skill sets that I use day to day? Like, and I essentially kind of wrote down what it is that I want. What would my dream candidate be to kind of come and do this thing? And the first thing is it wasn't one person. So that's the first thing we realized. So we needed to, like, I've personally brought in a head of content because I look after all the content. So it's like I brought head of content in. That's Nindy. So Nindy looks after podcasts, blog, all the SEO stuff and social media. All of that stuff is his remit, and he has his own team. So he'll work with Holly. He'll work with Dan, our videographer, Tom, our video editor, our podcast team. So he manages that process now, and then I just kind of funnel through Nindy. Nindy funnels through to everybody else, and we're now building that out. But I've not just left him to it. I'm there too. Like I'm working with Dan, Tom, Holly. Like I'm trying to build those people up along with Nindy, and kind of trying to put my knowledge on Nindy and say, kind of give him what it is that I would normally do, so we can just kind of run with it. And it's like, instead of going all the way to the senior roles, we kind of went a little bit before that management role. Like we're trying to find somebody that wants to step into the management role, but they've done a lot of the stuff themselves. And I think the big thing is, like, when you go and try and find senior people, a lot of them won't want to be hands on. They want to kind of just like manage people, and that's it. And I think that's the mistake we made the first time. So what I've done with Nindy is, Nindy is a hands-on person. Like, he does everything. He writes. He creates stuff himself. So I know that I'm confident that Nindy's going to be able to do that stuff without me having to be there. If he needs to get his hands dirty and do stuff, he'll do that. Like Dan, the videographer, I obviously used to shoot all the video content, being the videographer, but I wanted to get someone that didn't want to just come in and train other people how to shoot. I wanted someone that was passionate about creating really, really good video. So Dan is really, passionate about cinematography. So I've given him the reins to go and build that video team out and take it upon himself to kind of be creative with however he wants to do it. So that part's all sorted now. And it's the same with all the other roles. Like, David has gone and brought in salespeople. He's brought in an NED in the sales position. So again, like, you don't have to go and hire like $100,000 salesperson. Like, we brought in a non-executive director in sales. Her name's Fiona, and she does 2 days a week. Like 2 days a week, she's in the office, and she also checks in with our salespeople every week as well. So it's almost like a part-time sales director, but she's got a tremendous amount of experience. Now, if your business is small, look, you don't need to go and get a full-time person. Like, go and get somebody that can do a day a week or 2 days a week, and you'll save a shitload of money, but you still got the experience there to kind of chime in and do that stuff for you. So I think it's just being mindful of, number one, how much are you spending on these people? Can you do it cheaper? It's almost always you can do it cheaper by either getting them for a couple of days a week, or bringing in somebody that's ready to step into that role that hasn't done it yet, but you can kind of mold them and get them into that position, and you're going to pay less money and you're going to get somebody better to actually do that role. And that's basically it. Like, I don't know if that answers the question, but it's like, again, we're kind of learning this quite recently, where we're trying to bring people in to kind of fill those voids in the company right now. We had a support team of 6 or 7 people, and Jamie spent a lot of his time trying to get the support part of the business to work, and he spent a lot of his energy on that. Eventually, Jamie got sick of it, and he's like, right, I need to bring in somebody that can do this. So he brought in Katie, who, she's like she's not like super high level senior, but she's good. She's a very, very good mid-level kind of manager who can now come in and build into that very senior role. And she's taken over the support department, and she's very hands-on, building the processes. And you know, I think you got to just find that balance between somebody who's ready to grind and build their career, but also someone that kind of wants to like be that kind of manager, like, and you just got to find a balance between the two. If you go straight for the top level person, the problem you're going to have is that they don't want to step down and do the dirty work. Like, because if you're a small company, there's going to be a lot of bitty things to do, and senior managers don't want to do that. And that's why you got to kind of find that middle ground, the balance. And those are the kind of people you want to bring in, basically.
You're absolutely right on that. And if I could just cut that as a sound clip and send it to any clients that are going through a growth phase from that early stage to scale up, then it would be perfect, because it's such a common mistake that we see in my world of recruitment. You see it a lot. You see the name, the idea, like, yes, brilliant. And then they just, like you say, they're just not hands-on enough, or they're not used to the lack of structure and the chaos not chaos is probably the fast-moving pace of a growing smaller business. It's quite an eye-opening for them. So I'll probably just cut and paste that particular answer and just send it with them and say, just listen to this before you hire anyone. It'll be a lot easier if you took it on board. But that's a great answer. Honestly, love that. I really do. Moving to a completely different area. I mean, I've had Viddyoze on my radar as a recruiter for a long time. You probably won't realize this, but I've looked at your profile quite a bit and always kept up to news with what's going on in out there in the news. And I guess the catalyst for me actually getting in touch in the end properly was that I'd seen a news article that you'd done with Prolific North, which was quite an eye-opening one from my side of things. And it was around some of the racial discrimination that you actually get throughout your career and you have to endure. I just wanted to ask you a bit about that. When is the racial discrimination something you've had to put up throughout your entire career? Is it just like what goes on for people to actually do such a thing, really?
I've had experiences with racism from when I was a kid. Like, so it's not like it's new. It's just that I didn't ever have it in my career until then. So it was a bit of a it was a bit of a surprise, like when it started happening. I think it just came along with the amount of exposure we started getting. Like, I mean, one of the video ads we run is, I think it's got like 15 million views or something. So yes, it's like, you're gonna get unfortunately a small percentage of people who are that way, and there's literally nothing anybody can do about it. I can't tell you why. I don't know what drives the motivation, but it's people who have got a lot of issues with their own personal self, like to go and attack someone and look for someone. Like, I've had people literally find me on Instagram and my personal Facebook, on LinkedIn, send me messages and just say stuff. And the mad thing is, I didn't even say my name in the video, which is what I find quite bizarre, because they've had to basically go and Google the company, find out who the owner is. So, oh, that's the guy, that's his name. Let me go see if he's on social media. He's on social media, so now I'm going to insult him, basically. So it's like, it's a lot of like, you've just got to have either a lot of time on your hands or a lot of internal hatred to want to go to the extent to do something like that. So on the one hand, it's just like, I feel sorry for you because you're so narrow-minded. And on the other hand, it's just, especially the way it lined up, when it all started happening was actually exactly the same time as when the Black Lives Matters movement started resurfacing, and it was just it was just bad timing, I suppose. But it was like, this stuff's just always going to be there, and like, we've just got to circumnavigate and find out how we get past it, really. That's the best I could do with it, really. That, like, it obviously affected me like quite a bit, and like, in the initial bit, it was just like, I don't get it. But then, it is what it is. Like, we're making a tremendous amount of cash with those videos. So it's like, I'm not going to stop. And I shouldn't stop just because of some shit like that, really. And that's it. Like, it's a sad part of like culture, but what can we really do? Like, and I think it's great, like, people have like the drive to create movements like Black Lives Matter and that kind of thing. But in all honesty, like, if you're racist and if you have racial hate, it's not going to change it. Like you can go and march as much as you want, you can say what you want. It's not going to change someone's mind. It's like if I hate Marmite, I hate Marmite, and that's it. Like you're not going to change my mind just because you say it's good. And that's that's unfortunately how racism kind of works. Like if you don't like someone, you don't like someone. So I don't know. It's cool to make people aware of it, but I think ultimately, like, there's always going to be that in society, and we have to you know have the mindset to kind of get past those kinds of hurdles, and we got to just kind of deal with it as we go. It shouldn't happen, but it does. So I mean, some of the comments are just like absolutely insane, like telling me to kill myself, and just all kinds of things that I can't really repeat it here because it's just that bad. But it's like, and those are the ones that personally come to me. Like, people have sent messages to my support desk, like the actual support at Viddyoze email, with like racial abuse and all these really horrible references and stuff. And my staff, like, we actually my staff started to collate all the comments in a folder on Google Drive. And then what we did is we made a YouTube video about it. And I read off some of the less bad ones, like just some of the more comical ones, about not necessarily about race, but more just like, you look like an alien type comments. And like we ended up making like a video, just like a kind of like a read the funny comment thing. So we tried to make use of it in a way, but my staff have seen some of them and they're just like, this is just like insane. So yeah, it's bad, and
Yeah.
it happens, unfortunately. So
well, you might have answered this in the question, but do you think there's anything out there that the sort of the technology world could be doing as a whole to improve upon it, or is it something like you said, it's just not going to change minds at this point?
look, I think people should be held accountable. Like, you can't just go up to somebody in the street and say the things that get said online. So I don't see why we allow it online. If you can't do it to someone's door at someone's doorstep, you shouldn't be able to do it on the internet. Like, it's cyberbullying essentially. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it happens a lot with teens and kids in school and shit like that. But it doesn't really make a difference on how old you are. Like, it's just human nature. Like, there's a level of respect that we should have for people, a level of I don't know, care and affection we should have towards one another in society. So there should be penalties. Your account should get banned. Your IP should be banned. You should get suspensions on accounts or get fined. Like, there's nothing stopping platforms like Facebook. Facebook is an integral part of life. Like, it is literally, we will never not be in a world now where we don't have Facebook right now, in our lifetime anyway. And it's like, we spend that much time on these platforms like Instagram and Facebook, that there should be some kind of legality behind those platforms, because it's a place where we interact with people. We sell stuff there, we buy stuff there, we create relationships there, we fucking literally portray our entire lives on these platforms. So if somebody's done something and it's there, like, there should be an electronic way in which we can penalize people. I don't think it's that hard to do. I just think it's a case of whether they want to do it or not. But it's like, where's the line between free speech and order? Oh, that's probably the argument that they have at these places all the time, is like, where's the line? And I think when it comes to things like that, there should be some form of penalty. And I think it would massively reduce the amount of issues people have, especially young people who are really affected by the things that hurt their self-esteem and things about their appearance and things like that. I think these kinds of things could be put into place to help stuff like that. And if you look at, there's a really great documentary on Netflix right now, called the social dynamic experiment or something. I don't know, but it's basically about, it talks about the suicide rate and the number of young teenage girls that are killing themselves in the growth spurt of social media. And that's not a coincidence. It's literally because of how people are pressurized on social media, and this is all part of it. Like, I had to deal with all that shit, and it put me through quite a lot of trouble at the time. Like, I didn't like it. Like, I'll be honest. Like, and I believe I've got quite a thick skin, but it still really got to me. So not everyone's the same. Some people might not take it that simply, and it could be it could end up a lot worse for some people. So yeah, I think there definitely should be something there, and hopefully one day we can get there.
That's a fair point. I appreciate that. And thanks for the kind of the insight as well, because what I'll say, when I was reading it, I was sort of a little bit taken back. I know it was during the BLM, sort of a peak of that time really, when it was getting going during the main part of COVID as well. But I was taken back reading the article, and hence I wanted to reach out and obviously speak to you as well. I didn't then realise what a role you guys were on at Viddyoze as well. So it was great to get you on and talk about it. But thanks for that. Just to kind of put things back on to Viddyoze itself, and the learning curve that you've been on as a journey as a founder. I guess what is the biggest learning curves that you faced that we've maybe not covered as a co-founder? What was the biggest surprise so far, or one of the biggest surprises on your journey today?
God, it's hard to just pick one thing. Like, there's been a lot of things. I mean, in the early days, we used to get very stressed out about stuff that when we look back at it, it's kind of like, like we put a lot of energy into that, and we probably didn't need to worry so much. Like, as an example, when we first started out and we started to get traction, we had a couple of people copy the idea, and tried to recreate it and that kind of stuff. And that really hampered us for a couple of months. It was like, shit, like, what are we going to do? People are copying us, and that's it now. There's going to be too many options, and people won't buy a product. And I think one big thing we took from that was just like, look, like, it's not really about what other people are doing. It's just about what your customers think of you and your brand. And that's basically why we've held on to our customers, and people haven't ever switched to anybody else. Is we've just focused on making sure our customers get the best experience, making sure that we keep innovating, and we keep making shit new and polishing the product and refreshing it. And like right now we've got a new version of Viddyoze coming out in November, so the whole product's going to get overhauled, new templates, new features. And it's like, all of our existing customers, it's great. Like, they're going to be like, wow, like, cool, free update, like, and the whole platform's brand new again. And it's like, we do it every year, like, and it's just such a great way to reward your customers and keep them latched onto what you're doing. And like, you just want to reward them, like, they're paying you, so just carry on giving them really cool stuff, and listen to them, and you don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. That's one big thing we learned back then, and that's what we kind of run by now. Other stuff is like cash, like cash in the bank. When you're first starting out, you're very precious about the money in the bank. You have to pay your own salary, you have to pay your own bills, and you've got to make sure you're going to be all right. But I think adopting a mindset of abundance, like, is a great thing, not just in business but just in life generally. And understanding that in business we have to spend cash. It's like, and I know that sounds really obvious, but when you're starting out and you make your first £1,000,000, you just don't want to touch it. Basically, you're just like, well, there's £1,000,000 in the bank, and that's it. I just want to keep it there forever. And it's like, well, that's not how you're going to grow. You've got to find ways that you can basically invest your cash and bring it back. So either spend your money on paid advertising, absolute priority, it should be, or work really hard to bring people in that can grow your network so you can build up your affiliate recruitment platform. So you want to just acquire customers. Like, that's ultimately the biggest thing here. Is I speak to a lot of people who start businesses, entrepreneurs who want to start their own thing. I literally was having a conversation yesterday about somebody starting a clothing brand, for instance, and it's like, everybody gets caught up on stuff that honestly doesn't really matter. Like, what should my logo look like? What should my company name be? What should the brand be? And what does it stand for? All of this stuff. And look, all that stuff's really cool and important eventually, but your primary goal as a business is to get a customer. And as soon as you've got one, figure out how you get your next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and then figure out how you do it 10 times a day, 20 times a day, 100 times a day. Like, that's got to be the only thing that's driving you in those early days. And then as you start building capital, great, now you can start investing cash. Don't hold on to it, actually invest it, and invest it into how you can improve your brand. How can you bring in people that are going to help you level up and move forward? And that kind of brings me nicely onto another one is, drop the ego, basically. Because I think one thing that happens is, as you start developing in your business and maturing in your business, you think you're the only person that can do it. You think you're the only person that knows it that good and that can do the job that good. Like, I'll put my hands up. Like, I'm the videographer. I've always created our content, but I've had to hand it off because I don't want to be a videographer. Like, that's not why I created this business. Not to be a videographer. Like, I want to grow the business into $1 billion, and I can't do that if I'm shooting content. So, like, you need to have the simple principle that, look, even if someone isn't as good as you, it's cool. Like, the fact is that they're going to do something a little bit less better than you might have, but it frees you up to go and do something else. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if they aren't as good as you, take your time and find someone better. Like, you don't have to hire really fast. Just fire really fast and hire really slow is like kind of the principle that I've always heard is, hire fast, hire slow, fire fast. And that's how you got to be. Another big thing is holding on to people for too long. Like, I think we sometimes in the early days, especially, like, we were afraid of letting people go because we were like, oh, they're going to take it personally and they're going to hate us and whatever else. But look, it's ultimately it's business, and if they're not doing the job that you need them to do, they shouldn't be there, especially if you're spending your own money on it. And I think, you know what, if it was your money, your whole mindset would be different. If it was investor money, you probably would hold on to people longer. But if it's your money and you're the one that's literally paying someone, then I think you'd be a lot quicker to actually get rid. But yeah, that was a big lesson for us as well, was just like, don't let people drag along in the business. Have contracts for employment. Always have employment contracts, because if you don't, they will come and fuck you up. Make sure you're on point with your taxes, all of that good stuff. Just make sure all the legals are all there. But don't let those things get you caught up. Don't let it catch you up and slow you down. Always keep that primary goal in mind, that you want to sell more. That's the main thing. Sell more and look after your customers that you have got. And that's pretty much it. Those are the main things, really. We've learned a lot. Like, honestly, we've learned a lot, even from a personal perspective. Like, we've learned how to be better people in ourselves, how to develop ourselves as people, how to be more patient. When to put our foot down and stand up for ourselves when things aren't right. There's a lot of things that we've had to learn. We've had to learn how to manage money. I was bankrupt when I was 19 years old, so I was shit with cash, and I never had any money. So from going from that to where we are now, it's been a massive mental transformation for me to actually understand, how do I look after my money? How am I good with money? How do I not just go and spend it? Because I promise you right now, as soon as you make your first decent amount of cash, you're probably going to lose it. And that's okay.
Well, look, let's leave it there. Really, really do appreciate your time. It's been a really eye-opening one, and there's a lot of really good outcomes from it, sort of, for hopefully people listening to this can take it on board for when they're going through a similar journey or starting off themselves, something to look out for. And the affiliate model you spoke about as well, something that's been quite new to my ears, something to hopefully some of the client base will take on board. So awesome, really appreciate it. And for anyone who's listening, A, thanks for listening first and foremost. B, if you want to get in touch about being involved in the podcast, or want to get in touch with myself directly, please reach out on LinkedIn or message me, chris@bernsheen.co.uk. Keen to hear any suggestions or anything that particular people would like to hear as well. But Joey, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate your time, and yeah, thanks again. Thanks a lot.